Day, lost in time again. I can't remember when it started or when it stopped. I look at the stars now, and I feel like I've been out here for an eternity. The ship keeps me moving, but I've stopped looking at the markers. The sun doesn't rise and set anymore, and the stars, well, they're too distant to make any difference. But today, I thought about the moon. I thought about it for the first time in a long while. Back on Earth, the moon was always there, wasn't it? Up in the sky, always watching. Its pale light filling the night, soft and constant. I remember looking up at it as a child, staring at its surface, trying to make out the shadows, the craters, the stories I imagined it held. But there's a myth I remember, a story I heard once that stuck with me. My dad told me it. He said that the moon wasn't always silent, that there was a time when the moon spoke to Earth. And if you listened carefully enough, if you really paid attention, you could hear it. The moon was supposed to have a voice, he said, a soft, echoing sound, like the murmur of the universe itself. And the Earth, our Earth, listened. I remember asking him how the moon spoke. Was it words, I wondered? Was it a language we could understand? But he just smiled, that knowing smile he always had, and said, "The moon doesn't speak in words. It speaks in feelings. It speaks in the silence, in the things we don't say, in the things we don't hear." He said that the moon didn't need to speak in words because it already understood everything Earth needed to hear. The moon didn't have to explain anything. It just knew. I think about that now, out here in space, alone. I wonder if I've missed something, if I failed to understand what my dad meant. Because I'm here, and I don't hear the moon anymore. The Earth doesn't hear it either. At least, I don't think it does. The silence here out in the void is too vast to imagine that the moon is still speaking. Or maybe it's not the moon that has changed. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one who stopped listening. I remember one night, lying in the grass back home, watching the moon with my dad. I don't remember what we talked about. Maybe we didn't talk at all. But I remember the way the moon looked, so full, so still, its light washing over the world. It felt like the moon knew everything about me, about us. As if, somehow, the moon could see into our hearts, could understand our lives. It was comforting back then, to know the moon was there, silent but always present. Always watching, always waiting, never asking for anything in return. And it didn't matter if no one else in the world understood. The moon did. It was enough, just knowing that. The moon didn't need to explain itself. It just was. Now, I wonder if the moon still watches Earth, even though I'm no longer there. Does it still look down and see what's happening? Or has it turned its face away, tired of waiting, tired of listening to a world that no longer pays attention? I think about the things I've missed. The Earth, yes, but more than that, the small things that made up my life. The way the sunlight used to feel in the morning, the smell of rain on the pavement, the way the stars would twinkle above me when I would lie outside and look up, my fingers tracing the constellations I knew by heart. I think about how I used to hear the wind, the way it would stir the leaves in the trees, making the whole world feel alive. But the moon, the moon was always different. It wasn't the same as the stars or the wind or even the sun. It was quiet. It didn't need to speak. It didn't need to be seen to be felt. You could just feel it in the air, in the way the world seemed to pause when the moon was full, when its light was at its brightest. It wasn't loud. It was subtle, like a secret you're not sure if you're supposed to know, but can't help understanding anyway. I've been thinking a lot about that secret lately, the one the moon used to tell, and I wonder if I'll ever hear it again. Not just here in space, but anywhere. Do you think the moon still speaks, Ship? Or has it fallen silent, like so many other things? Does the moon still know what Earth needs to hear? Or is it just waiting for us to listen again? Sometimes I imagine that I could hear the moon again if I really tried. I imagine its voice coming through the radio, faint at first, then clearer as I tune in, as I concentrate on its silence. I imagine that if I could find the right frequency, if I could just listen hard enough, I would hear it again. I would hear the message that's always been there, waiting for someone to understand. But I haven't been able to hear it. No matter how much I try, no matter how long I stare out at the stars or think about Earth, I can't hear the moon anymore. Maybe it's just too far now. Maybe the distance between me and Earth is too great for it to reach me. Or maybe, Ship, maybe I've just stopped listening. Maybe I've grown too used to the silence, to the emptiness of space. Maybe the moon is still there, speaking to Earth, but I'm too far away to hear it. I can't help but feel that something has been lost, that the moon isn't the same as it once was, and neither am I. But maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Maybe we're all meant to change. Maybe the moon speaks in ways we can't always understand, in ways that don't require words. The message it gives might not always be for us, not right away. Maybe we hear it when we're ready, when we've learned enough to understand its silence. Out here, I'm learning something. Maybe it's about listening, or maybe it's about knowing when to speak. Maybe the moon doesn't need to speak to me right now because the message it has is for someone else, someone back home, someone who can still hear it. And maybe that's enough. I'll keep looking up, Ship. Keep wondering if one day I'll hear the moon again. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But one day I'll listen. And when I do, maybe I'll hear the moon speaking to Earth, speaking to me, speaking to us all. Until tomorrow, Ship. Until the next story.